Hey folks, welcome back to Adventure Gear TV. I'm grounded at home recovering right now, and while I'm here, I've had plenty of time to reflect, especially about past adventures and gear choices. It's easy to look back at those trips in my minivan camper and think everything was perfect. And in many ways, those were incredible experiences. But today I want to talk about the not so perfect side of my minivan camper build. I chose the no build route, and while it initially got me out there exploring, I've definitely learned some hard lessons along the way. Well friends, today I'm reflecting on my biggest regrets with the setup and what I'd do differently next time. Let's get into it. For a lot of folks, the idea of a no-build minivan camper is extremely enticing. You probably already have your minivan, and then all you need to do is get things like a small bed, maybe some furniture, other utensils, and then boom, you have a minivan camper. And this idea works for many reasons. You don't have to build anything. There's no special tools required. All you need to do is buy a few comfort items, and that's if you don't already have a few of these things laying around at your house. And then next thing you know, you're on the road enjoying some adventures. And no-build minivan campers are cheap, simple, and reversible. So there's really nothing that can beat that, especially when you're getting started out. This is just an unobtrusive reminder for those who usually wait till the end. Don't forget to do something below the video. And like my friend Tim from the channel Mo Bang for Yo Bucks recently said after his big trip to Quartzsite, Arizona, change is inevitable. Today it's time for a reality check on some of the limitations of no-build minivan campers in general. And while I absolutely believe that the best way to start minivan camping is with the no-build setup, I want to talk about a few areas where I have some regrets. And the main topics are managing floor space, sleeping arrangements, kitchen setup, garage setup, and then storage overall in general. All of the no-build minivan camper setups that I've had so far essentially feature a steel bed frame and then a 3 to 6 inch memory foam mattress. And while this bed setup has worked excellently for me in the past, it is not exactly perfect. First of all, those steel frames, they are a fixed shape. So if the floor of your vehicle isn't exactly level, then you will have to modify, maybe add some blocks of wood to make sure that the bed frame is level while you're sleeping in it. And then the second disadvantage of a memory foam mattress is if they're not thick enough, especially in the warmer months, when you roll over, the metal frame below can dig into your hip or your back. And on top of that, if the weather is really cold, then these mattresses can freeze and they will essentially turn into little bricks. Now, I don't consider it a huge problem when the mattresses freeze up because as I lay in there and warm it up, the areas where my body contacts do become soft again. And for me, that makes the bed more optimal where it's firm in some places where you don't want to roll off and then soft where your body is sinking in. And even though this is reversible, it is a no-build minivan camper. Once I have my bed set up like this, I leave it in for extended periods. So the idea or thought of taking this out every day, setting it up every night if you're on extended camping trips is just not realistic, at least for me. There are some more portable beds that you could take out, or even if you just have a mattress, perhaps fold that mattress up. And for those reasons, my no-build bed setup is essentially permanent. So I absolutely love this kitchen setup. I've got a microwave, I've got a coffee maker, and then I have this hot plate right here. And for the most part, I'm happy with this microwave, except that whatever I put in there has to fit in this little gap, which is essentially just a little wider than my hand. And because I have this set up the way it is, there is that limitation with the door. If I could raise this above the level of the bed here, then I would be able to open that door freely. But then this would be a higher device, making it a bigger risk if I have an accident. And this Keurig coffee maker, I have absolutely zero gripes about. This thing is easy. I just open it up, pop in my pod, and brew a fresh cup of coffee. But over here in the corner closest to my door is my hot plate setup. And this is the thing that I have the most regrets about in my kitchen area. I made the decision to put the hot plate close to this door because I had ideas that I would be able to cook with the hot plate right here where it sits. However, due to its proximity to this chair right here, I have never cooked with this hot plate in this location because I want to keep this thing clean and tidy inside. And once I get grease or anything like that on that chair, it's simply never going to come out. And luckily, since none of this stuff is permanent, I will be able to change everything around in my next build. I'm usually very happy with the weather, but today for me, it is just a little chilly. And so I'm going to put my hat on. And my next regret with going with a no-build setup is this floor space. First problem is these rails from the OEM seats. You can remove these. There are some bolts that are under the chassis of the vehicle that if you do remove those bolts, these rails will slide out. For me, I did incorporate them into this little shelf that I built, but this spot right here is still at least a hand's width protruding into my space. And because I opted not to pull these seat rails out, I have all this floor space under the shelf that I cannot really use. So with this setup, I'm essentially limited to the 4 feet from the seat to the shelf, to about 2 feet from the entrance to the back of the bed. And while this is plenty of floor space in the summer months, as the winter and the bad weather starts to drag on, I bring all kinds of mud, leaves, grime, things like that into the minivan camper. And so when I compare my no build setup to my buddy Tim's setup, he has this philosophy he calls the circle of life. And in his circle of life philosophy, he has a lot of open space design, and then all of the things he would need access to during his daily camping routine are all within that circle arm's reach of where he is sitting. And thinking about Tim's philosophy brings me to my next regret with a no build minivan camper setup. Can you see the storage space inside of my minivan? That's right, you really can't, because everything is under the bed. My power station, all of my cookware besides those appliances right there, everything I need is under this bed and mattress setup. It's not easily accessible, and when I do want to get under there, I have to essentially open the van and get in from the outside. The other major problem with having everything under the bed is that I often forget some of the things that I have under there. So I have all of this cool camping gear and all these things that I've accumulated over the last several years, and I'll forget that I had them. I'll go in and pull out a tote for something else, and I'll say, oh, I can't believe I had that, and I forgot that I had it. So it does allow you to build a little more clutter when you don't have your storage space optimized for minivan camping. And my final area of concern or regret for my build is within my garage space. My trunk or garage space here is cluttered. I've got my stealth camping shades, this EcoFlow Delta 3 Plus portable power station, a folding camping chair, some more power for solar panels, as well as cooking and other stuff that I don't keep in the storage totes under the bed because I want to have access to them as readily as possible. With my no build setup, I do have some of these little totes. In here I have some more cooking supplies. In fact, there's just that one pan, which is hard to reach. And then under here, very hard to reach as well, is this OEM tote that is essentially empty right now because it is so hard for me to get to that I haven't really put anything inside of it. So really the regret here is that with a true minivan camper build, I could put some shelving back here that would optimize this space, making everything easily accessible from outside of the vehicle or possibly inside of the vehicle, however I want to do that. But boxes and totes and storage and all that extra stuff isn't necessarily the most ideal way to make a minivan camper. So I'm here recovering at home, and I had this idea that I wanted to share with you guys a few things that I regret about doing my no build minivan camper setup. But overall, I love the idea of being able to get out there and have an adventure with minimal investment, minimal requirements. Those small gripes that I have are just little gripes that I'll take into consideration for my next build. But overall, I am going to continue to love and enjoy my minivan camping experiences. If you love the idea of minivan camping in general, whether it's no build or a complete custom build, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you on my next adventure.